Hey everybody, welcome back to the Safe Recovery Practice YouTube channel. And again, I'm grateful that you're here and thank you for subscribing if you've subscribed already. And if you're new to this channel, if you get a chance, I'd love it if you subscribed. There's some previous videos that we've done about the journey of the Safe Recovery Practice, a little bit of history on how the Safe Recovery Practice came about. My name is Bruce Whittemore. I am a holistic recovery coach. I'm an EFT practitioner, and I am the co-founder of the Safe Recovery Practice. And I'm grateful that you're here. Again, I appreciate your time, and hopefully that these discussions will offer a different way of looking at recovery, of how we see recovery differently than maybe some traditional models. And this particular series that I'm doing right now is around something that's actually traditionally used in the rooms of recovery. And it's this idea of experience, strength, and hope, and sharing our experience, strength, and hope. And that's what I'm doing in this particular series. And this video is around sharing my strength and how I see strength and recovery and how it might apply to how you have experienced recovery as well. So, in the last video, we talked about how things happen to us that help to shape who we are today. And that was our experiences growing up, and how they shaped who we are today, how our brains and bodies adapted to our environments out of survival. We simply learned ways to survive, to protect ourselves, or to fit in, or ways to disconnect, or also ways to stay alert. Some of these ways were unconscious, or ways that we simply helped us to get through whatever was happening at the time. Some of those experiences, they actually gave us wisdom. They actually, over time, created resilience, and maybe some of them created compassion and understanding. Others, however, created these patterns that may have protected us from what was going on. And those patterns are no longer serving us today. They are what I call have become adaptations. And sometimes those adaptations became excessive. And that may be why you're here today. Maybe you know someone in recovery. Maybe you're challenged or struggling with a substance or behavior that hasn't served you. And I like to think of them as adaptations, not addictions. They've become addictions over time. And thinking of them as adaptations may change the lens you see yourself in or see others in. And sometimes those adaptations have become excessive, such as excessive drinking or drugging, or maybe it was food for you, or sex for someone you know, pornography, gambling, work, or even relationships can become a addiction or an adaptation. And of course, the one that we all know, it's ubiquitous out there, is scrolling on our phones. There's a number of them. I could go on and on. We have adapted. Those are the things that we use today, possibly. And that comes from our experience, which is what we talked about in the last video and shared some of my own experience. Today, I want to talk to you about strength. Again, experience is the past, strength is today. And then we're going to talk about hope in the next video, which I think of as kind of a future state. Now, when we talk about strength, we naturally think of something that we push through or we muscle through or way to lift things up or hold things up and bracing ourselves, maybe even holding something back. And I honestly like to think of strength differently. I like to think it actually is the exact opposite. Yeah, we can muscle through things, and sometimes that's necessary. Sometimes we need to hold things back. What if strength is really about letting go? What if it's really about a softening, an allowing, or surrendering? Maybe it's about just a little bit of willingness to open up and become curious about what's happening inside of us, or what's happening inside of someone else. And sometimes that takes a lot more courage than pushing through something. I want to share a story with you recently that happened to me. I was riding along a path on my bike on this beautiful path that we have by our house along the river. And on my way to the gym, I had music playing in my ears and my earbuds. I was feeling pretty good. I was actually think I was clapping to something that was going on, hands free on my bike, and just feeling feeling good in that moment. And all of a sudden, a good sized bug flew into my eye, directly into my eye. And talk about instant humility. It stung. It stung me in my eye and it just took me off guard. And luckily, I didn't crash at that moment. I don't think I've ever felt so much pain in my eye before. It was on fire. Now, there's probably thinking, okay, where is this going? There's nothing, this wasn't anything spiritual or philosophical about that in that moment, although I wanted to make something of it. And although you probably know that that's coming in this video, here's the thing, it just stung like hell. It was burning. I never felt so much pain in my eye before. I stopped my bike, I grabbed my water bottle, and I started pouring water into my eye. I was trying to deal with the pain, and I probably, was looking pretty strange as these two women happened to be walking toward me. And they could see I was hurting, uh, water, you know, all over me, squirting water in my eye. And they stopped to ask if I was okay. And almost immediately, I went to that familiar place. Maybe this resonates with you. I'm fine. I'm okay. I've got this. Now, one of the women was trying to offer me something, but I didn't even really know what she had. I was prepared to tell her I was fine, I'm moving on. But for whatever reason, she persisted in searching through her backpack. And I just left the door open just for a moment. That I was in so much pain that I would have tried just about anything to stop it. And just at that moment, she pulled out this eye wash pack, little tiny eye wash pack that she just happened to be carrying with her. Of course, I asked her if she was a nurse or whatever. And of course, she had worked in a doctor's office. Here's the thing, it was exactly what I needed at that moment. She helped me flush my eye out. And after a little while, I was able to get back on my bike and just continue my ride to the gym. Now, since I was already thinking about writing this article about strength, of course, I've come back to that moment several times, not because I believe the universe sent a bug into my eye to teach me a lesson, although, yes, here we are. It is it's what I noticed afterward that really got me thinking about strength. Here's the thing that I almost turned away what I needed or I knew what was being offered. Say that again, that I almost turned away when I needed before I knew what she was offering. How often do we do that? Tell ourselves, I'm fine, we're fine, I can handle it, I don't need anybody, I can power through this, I can muscle through it. And maybe we learn somewhere along the way not to rely on other people for very good reasons. Maybe people weren't there for us when we needed them growing up. Maybe vulnerability didn't feel safe because we didn't get the validation or the response we were looking for. Maybe trusting somebody got us hurt. And maybe relying on our own abilities was the safest way to get through life. All of that is an adaptation to. Here's the thing. I don't think recovery means ripping that protection away and suddenly trusting everybody. That's not safe. That's not what I'm talking about. For many of us, that wouldn't feel safe at all, consciously or unconsciously. My body knows when things don't feel safe, and we carry that from our earlier experiences. What if we could still stay curious and just open the door a crack and let in a little light? Just enough curiosity to ask, what's here? Is it safe? What is being offered to me? Is it a little eyewash that might help me? Do I want to open the door just a little more to something new? Something I haven't considered, some other possibility. And we know we can close the door again. We can make that choice. We always have choice. Maybe that's the sweet spot between protecting ourselves and becoming too vulnerable. Maybe it's even about being receptive and open to um, just a little bit of that lighting. And maybe curiosity can be that light for us. That's it. Just a little bit of curiosity, noticing what's coming up, noticing what might be there, noticing what's happening inside of us. That experience reminded me of something else about strength that I sometimes forget. And this is the fact that we're not alone. There's a lot of good people out there in the world. Yes, even though our experience may not have seen that, or we may not have experienced that growing up. There were two other human beings on the path that day, standing on the trail with me. And for those few minutes, these complete strangers became a part of my recovery. from that painful moment. So isn't that a part of recovery too? Knowing we're not the only one. Yes, our stories are different. Our experiences growing up are different. Our experiences as adults are different. We get hurt. We get scared. We want to belong. We want to feel safe. We want to be loved. We want to feel connection. We find ways to protect ourselves, and then sometimes we struggle. Now, there is tremendous strength in discovering that somebody else understands what we need. There's strength in numbers, strength in community, strength in connection and safe connection, safe relationships, and strength in allowing ourselves to receive help. It takes a little letting go. It's not easy. Sometimes somebody else is also carrying something in their backpack that we need. Maybe it's experience or wisdom. Maybe it's their own journey that they want to share. Maybe it's an introduction to a recovery meeting, or maybe it's a phone call in that backpack, or simply someone willing to sit with us without judging us. Maybe it's hope in that backpack. And occasionally, it's an eye wash. It's just an eye wash pack that soothes the pain of that particular moment. And maybe that's enough for that moment. And here's the other thing. Sometimes we also carry something in our backpack that someone else needs. Maybe they just need a connection or hello on the path of life. Maybe they need community. And being able to offer that is strength too. I also think of strength in a more literal way. I go to the gym several times a week and have been going for many, many years. I don't go into the gym one day, the first day, and lift the weight and suddenly become strong. Strength comes from practice. We talked about in a previous video about practice and recovery. From repetition. And yes, repetition can be boring. Trust me, lifting weights is not an exciting thing. And maybe that's your experience as well. We're used to the drama and the craziness. That can also be an addiction. Strength comes from consistently showing up. It also comes from rest and renewal. We strengthen muscles by using them again and again, but we also strengthen them by resting. We begin with what we can manage in the moment, and it's all about in this moment right now. And over time, maybe we can add a little bit more. And then we can also try different things. Things work for us. And sometimes some things don't work for us. Sometimes recovery meetings don't work for us. And that's okay. Search for another way. Get curious. Find another path. There are many of them out there today. Back to the gym metaphor, if you will. If one exercise doesn't work well for my body, I don't conclude that I've failed at exercise. I notice and I adjust. We try something different. And sometimes we get it wrong, and that's okay. Why should recovery be any different than any other type of practice? That includes going to the gym. It's not easy and it can be boring, and practicing things over and over again. Our system is not used to trying something new. Meditation might be one of those things that work for you. Or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's prayer, a recovery meeting, or yoga, music, journaling, walking, or talking with somebody you trust. Safety is important. Maybe it's EFT tapping, which I will introduce in some later articles, which are core to the safe recovery practice. These are tools of recovery. These are just a few of the tools of recovery. And again, we'll talk about more tools of recovery as we go. They aren't the strength themselves. They're the way we practice. And we practice to build and strengthen the pathways that bring us back to ourselves so that we have our own agency, so that we have our own strength, and also so that we can share that strength with others. Because here's the thing, sooner or later, that proverbial bug is going to hit us in the eye, and it's going to sting. And we want to be ready. We want to have practiced. Life is going to happen. And that's when the practice becomes real, when life happens. And that moment could be an urge to drink or use or drug that suddenly shows up because our system doesn't feel safe. Or maybe we turn toward food or pornography or unsafe sex with people we don't know, or gambling, shopping, work, and then, yes, toxic relationships that for some reason they feel safe and strangely familiar system, but they're still toxic. Maybe we disappear into our phones for hours because something inside of us doesn't want to be where we are in that moment. Whatever we've learned to reach for when something becomes uncomfortable, that moment gives us a chance to pause or take a breath or call somebody. And maybe it's a moment to move a muscle and change a thought. Maybe we can also tap and become curious about what my body is responding to. Some of the questions we might ask ourselves is, what's happening right now? What am I feeling, even though it's uncomfortable? What happened right before this? So what's the environment like? Is it not a safe environment to be in? Maybe that's when I move a muscle and move and change that environment. Is something happening in my nervous system that's responding through a pattern that was shaped a long time ago? The body doesn't know any different between 30 years ago and today. It's still here protecting us. And if I'm really safe at this moment, maybe I can gently remind myself, I'm here, I'm okay. That was then, and this is now. And I'm safe in this moment if we truly are. The tiny pause can be all the strength that you have available for that moment. And sometimes it can be enough Just, create another possibility. And sometimes it doesn't feel safe. And it's hard because I don't want to think that all of this is simple. It's uncomfortable. It's really powerful. Our biology is powerful as shit. It is powerful. And there's tools today through neuroscience. And again, I'm going to come back to tapping because I know how well that works. I'll be teaching that later on, how to tap for these moments. And in these moments, sometimes I've practiced enough that I know exactly what I'm supposed to do, and I still can't do it for some reason. The urge is way too strong. I can't make the phone call. I just don't want to. Sometimes I can't take a moment to take a breath or tap. And then sometimes the car drives directly to the liquor store anyway, or to the food store, or to my computer to look at pornography. What then? Have I failed at recovery? I don't think so. Sometimes the opportunity for strength actually comes afterward. Maybe I can turn toward myself instead of against myself afterwards. Maybe that shame part of me can notice that this is historical adaptation and just soften a bit with the language we tell ourselves. Instead of asking, what the hell's wrong with me? Why can't I change? Why do I keep doing this? Maybe I can offer myself just a little bit of compassion and curiosity. I'm not broken. I survived. What happened? What was going on inside of me? What did I need that caused me to move in a direction that was not healthy for me towards that pattern? What was this behavior trying to do for me? What has it done for me all my life? What was I trying not to feel? And maybe eventually I can ask, do I want to do something different? That is curiosity. And curiosity can happen 5 seconds later, 5 hours later, the next morning, even years of repeating the same pattern over and over. Whenever that curiosity happens, we have an opening. That isn't failure. That strength. It's another opportunity to practice recovery. Is it easy? Absolutely not. Is it an opportunity? Absolutely. We notice what happened. We learn something. Try again. Small steps. Slow. Keep it simple. Find safe connections and safe ways that work for you. One moment at a time. One breath at a time. One small opening at a time. And maybe I don't have to figure it all out at once. Maybe I don't have to do it by myself. Maybe I can find a safe person or a safe community where I can say, this is what happened to me. This is what I did. And this is what I'm feeling. I don't completely understand it yet, but I'm open to understanding it. And instead of being met with judgment or shame, I'm met with curiosity and compassion. That is strength in a safe community. I didn't know when I first came into recovery 35 years ago that I had any idea where this path was going to take me. In those early years, a lot of my strength came from trying to trust people. That wasn't easy for me. People who had gone before me and to just trust them, even with the littlest things, that this possibly could work. There was certainly a lot of blind faith for me in those moments. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't perfect by far. The people I trusted weren't perfect. And recovery certainly wasn't perfect. At times it was messy and it was ugly and scary. Some things helped me tremendously. Other things didn't. And over time with practice, I learned to take what worked for me and leave what didn't. I made many mistakes. I hurt others, and others unfortunately hurt me along the way. That's part of the reality of recovery and life. My life today is filled with beautiful humans. And much of my strength comes from them, from listening to them, trusting the safe ones, trusting the communities that work for me, which were traditional recovery meetings, AA meetings, was lots of 12 steps, but it also was other communities as well. I'm still far from perfect. Life still brings these lessons about loss and love that hurt, moments that make me question myself, and sometimes even my faith and the goodness around me. If anything, recovery has taught me that today, this moment right now, my strength comes partly from allowing myself to be vulnerable with safe people and giving them the space also feel safe enough to be vulnerable with me. 35 years later, so much has changed. We understand more about trauma today than we ever have before, and the nervous system, neuroplasticity. We know that we can change as humans. We know about connection and attachment theory. Many of these things we'll be covering more in detail in later videos. And the many, many different pathways people can take in recovery. I honor all of them. Here's the thing. I'm still not sure the underlying lesson of recovery has changed much, or will it ever? Stay curious, stay open to possibility, because maybe that's where our real strength lives. Not in how tightly we hold on, but in our willingness to loosen our grip and discover what else might be possible. We don't need to be wide open, not blindly trusting, and not abandoning the parts of us that learned how to protect us. They helped us survive. Maybe we get to know them instead, those parts of us that helped us along the way. We stay open enough to allow a little light through. Strength in recovery isn't about overpowering those parts of us. It's about starting to notice them. That part of me that doesn't trust a certain environment or a person or a meeting or therapy. You start just noticing those parts. Where did they come from? Start listening to part of my practice. I do parts work, and we get curious about parts, what they need, how they help us survive, and understanding what they learned from those experiences growing up. It's recognizing the wisdom and resilience they may have given us, while also noticing when those strategies that they developed are also no longer serving us. They're no longer helping us live the life we want today. And then we practice. We practice and we practice getting to know them. We practice curiosity instead of judgment. We practice connection instead of isolation. Tiny moments of connection. And maybe that connection doesn't work out. We need to try another one. We practice asking for help instead of automatically saying, I'm fine. That bug doesn't sting me too bad. It's not burning like crazy. I'm fine. We practice receiving those unexpected gifts, those gifts from other people, that small eye wash, whatever might be in their backpack. And we practice thinking about the language we use against ourselves. We don't have to do this perfectly. We just keep practicing. That is strength. The past matters. Our experience helps shape the nervous system that we have today, our beliefs, the language we use, and adaptations we carry with us today. The past isn't happening right now. Our body believes it is. This moment is where we get curious. This is the moment. It's the only place where we can notice, the only place where we can take a breath, pause, and ask for help. This moment is the only place I can become curious and try something different. Maybe that's what strength and recovery really is. Not pushing harder, not holding on tighter, or pretending we're fine, but having the courage, little by little, to loosen our grip, to notice that there's possibility and that somewhere in ourselves, in our practice, in our community, or even in the backpack of a stranger walking towards us along the path of life, there may be something we haven't discovered yet. Something that helps us find our way back to ourselves, which is strength that we all have within us, all of us. There's a quote by Rumi that I'll leave you with that ties to our next conversation around hope. And that quote is, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. Thank you for your time again today. I hope this was something that resonated with you, and I appreciate that you're here and grateful and on this journey with me of recovery.